Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Felix and welcome back to another great video, because today's video is going to be so important in really understanding why you guys are getting declined for all of these business credit cards, personal credit card application, and how you guys can mitigate this, but really understanding what the top 5 things to never put on these applications are, just so we can increase those chances of automated approvals. And I know it can be frustrating sometimes knowing that you have a great credit score, a great report, and then no inquiries, and then you're still getting declined. Maybe it's because of one of these following reasons. So that's why we created a free community to give access to you guys. You guys can join. There's educational courses that we make available to everybody that join for free. So make sure to click the link below and hit join, subscribe, and then also introduce yourself on that community so we get to know you a little bit better. So on to the top 5 reasons on what not to ever put on a credit card. Starting with number 1 is putting retired or self-employed. And the reason behind that is because if someone came up to you and they're retired and self-employed, and you always want to put yourself in the perspective of the banks when they underwrite, they're in the business of mitigating risk. They're in the business of making sure that whatever money that they lend to these borrowers, they are ensuring that they are going to pay it back on time and not miss any payments or not be delinquent on any of those payments overall. So you want to, number 1, make sure that you don't put retired or self-employed, because it screams inconsistent income. It screams retired income. Maybe you're living off of Social Security and you have a lot more expenses to deal with. The last thing you want to do is really make those credit card payments when shit hits the fan. So you just want to make sure that, again, never put retired or self-employed, because again, that screams inconsistency of income on a month-to-month basis. So instead, you want to put employed, and if you have a business and you are self-employed, just put employed as an executive member or as an owner or as a managing member of that business that you're currently working on. Number 2 is really understanding what your income DTI ratio is, right? So you want to make sure you stay under DTI ratio of 35%. And the reason why is because the more debt payments that you're paying on a month-to-month basis, the banks are going to understand, based on the limits that they approve you, if you do max it out, then what are the likelihood of you making those payments if you already have all of these obligations to make on a month-to-month basis. That includes your rent, your student loans, your car payment. They can have access to all of those, and they have an algorithm that calculates, okay, if you make $10,000 per month and if you have these debt monthly fixed obligations of $8,000 per month, the likelihood of them approving you for a $15,000 limit card is very low, just because you're spending 80% of that income to pay off the other debt payments that you have. What makes you think that they're going to believe that if they give you a high limit that you're going to make payments on those? So overall, you just, number 1, need to make more income, or you need to combine the household income or have a projected income that is way more than the income that you made as of last year, and then make sure that you can personally go to your credit report and calculate. And also, it's good to keep track of all of your expenses on how much you're paying for rent, how much you're paying for car payment, your student loans, all of your other credit card bills that's stated on your personal credit report. Calculate those, take what the total expenses of those are, take your personal income that you take home every single month, multiply by 12. So if you're making $10,000 per month and multiply that by 12, you're making $120,000. But on a month-to-month basis, let's just say, okay, out of that $10,000, $4,000 of those goes to expenses based on what's stated on your personal credit report. Now you're at 40% DTI. So keep in mind, banks like to see that you're under 35% in order to approve you for high limits. And in order to increase the odds of you getting approved, it really comes down to what your DTI ratio is. And then number 3, this is mainly for business credit card application, is understanding what your NAICS code is, NAICS code, or what your industry classification code for that business is. So to give you a quick example, every time you start a new business, when you register it with the state, when you register it with Inc. Filing, which is a third-party agency that does all of your filing with the state in order to incorporate your business, they're going to ask, okay, what transactions, what type of business industry is this business under? You always want to stay away from high-risk type of industries like financial services, real estate is a big one, and then construction, marijuana, any of those that would scream, hey, it's kind of like risky, it is high margins, there's a lot of chargebacks that usually goes behind these industries. Those are in an industry that you want to stay off, because the risk that's associated with it just makes the banker think, hey, you know, we can't really trust this person with it just because due to the nature of that business model, there tends to be a lot of chargebacks and refunds coming out of that business. So you want to make sure to classify yourself as something more generalized, as like consultant, e-commerce, and then you can also do some research on what are some of the most popular industries that are making the most income on a year-by-year basis on Google, and then go off of those industry. You just want to kind of like maneuver the way in what you show on paper and what you actually do. Really understanding what your industry code is and what the banks perceive that industry as is going to be very important for you guys to get approved for not only business credit cards, personal credit cards, and then ultimately even like business loans and higher level debt products in that case, right? Number 4 is understanding what you are going to use that funds for. So let's just say you do get the clients, sometimes they do ask on the application, hey, what's the intention behind those funds? And never say real estate. In this period, in this year, it's pretty seasonal. Right now we're going through a recession. Interest rate is all-time high. You know, the likelihood of default is a lot higher when it comes to investing in this asset class. So you just want to understand, okay, periodically in this economic time, like what would make the most sense for you to afford that intentional funds that you're trying to apply for. Normally it's back into your business because there's a track record that the business is doing well. Every time you apply for something, even if it's for real estate, I would just say, hey, it's actually to hire more employees, to scale up our advertisement and marketing budget. In this case, everything that screams back in terms of like scaling your business, that is exactly what you want to state on these applications. And when you talk about banker on what the needs of those funds are, it really comes down to, okay, it really represent who you are as a person, what you do for a living, what you're doing in business, through the intention of what you're stating on those use of funds are going to be. And then last but not least, you just want to make sure your credit report matches exactly everything on the application that you're about to submit when requesting for any sort of credit lines, business line of credit, or any loans. Just because what they're going to do is cross-reference. They have algorithm in place. The moment that you submit, they're going to search your name on the database on Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, or the business credit report. They want to make sure that the information on there aligns with the information that you're submitting, because there's a lot of fraudulent application that's going on nationwide, and the last thing that they want is another fraudster trying to pretend to be like you, applying on their behalf and maxing out your credit cards. So there's security protocols that they have in place, and you want to make sure everything that you're stating on the application matches everything that's on the credit report at the end of the day. Okay, with that being said, if you follow all 5 of those and then you have great credit score, great payment history, and then very minimal inquiries, the chances of you getting approved is going to be 99%, right? So keep in mind, if you guys have any other questions, comment them down below, or if you see any other data points that's going to help aside from the top 5 things to never put on these applications, make sure to list them down below, and I'll do a more of a video breakdown for you guys to really understand the thought process as a lender, what they see, what they perceive, all of these applications and all of these information submitted, because I once was an underwriter for one of the top banks in the nation, and I really understand what goes behind the scene, and I want to make sure we get the information across to you guys, because at the end of the day, education is very important for everything that you do. All right, that being said, see you guys in the next video.